I'm not going to hack your Wi-Fi, but I'll give you a little example of what I could do. So all of these networks here, they probably appear to be legitimate, right? It's very illegal to do that, of course. But if I wanted to go outside right now, I could even demonstrate later for you. I pull this antenna out. This is just a small antenna. And we can receive airplanes, see where they're at. There's nothing illegal about receiving them. Transmitting is where it gets a little bit funky.
Man, you are a dangerous man. Let's go through all the things that you personally could hack if you wanted to.
It's countless, but I could give you some major daily things.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of the devices. Those devices you have right here. Let's talk about all the stuff you can hack into.
Sure.
And then we'll get into maybe how we can prevent that a little bit.
So I guess we'll just start with a daily routine. You wake up in the morning, you make your coffee, or maybe you take your phone off the charger and you check your phone in the morning. You might check your email. You got to make sure every email that you have while you're half asleep is coming from a real person. It's not a phishing email, someone pretending to be a company that they're not, stealing your credentials. Then you go outside to your garage, you get in your car, and you have to make sure that there's nobody out there listening for your car key frequency while jamming your car so that they could steal your car later or access your car later. And then when you go hit your garage door button, that somebody doesn't capture that frequency on 433 megahertz. Those rolling codes have already been broken for most of the models. So then you get in your car and you're driving to your office or to your kid's school, doing whatever you want. And you could get out, you let your kid out to school, and now somebody, as you walk into school, just skimmed your back pocket and stole your credit card information. So, all of that, plus, anything remote, infrared, like a TV remote that goes for projectors, audio devices, ceiling fans, very simple stuff, along with access control badges, anything sub-gigahertz, like key fobs or remote controls for anything. Parking gates, so much.
Everything.
Everything, anything with a battery and a connection, a remote connection, in any type of way where it reaches the outside of that device is hackable or has been hacked.
What are these devices here?
This is a water bottle. So this right here is this is a Flipper Zero with some custom modifications. And it does a lot. So this is just a proof of concept device, but when you start to add your own little additions onto it like this, let me enable, for example, Wi-Fi. I'm not going to hack your Wi-Fi, but I'll give you a little example of what I could do. I'll just do something stupid, but... Okay, and then I'm not going to shut your network down. Okay, so now if I can show you on my phone, or you could look at your phone, but you'll see that instead of me mirroring your network, I just created a bunch of fake networks. So all of these networks here, they probably appear to be legitimate, right?
Yeah.
But they're not.
These are all fake networks?
They're all powered by me. So as soon as you connect to any of those, I have your password, I have anything in between. So that's one thing. That's just Wi-Fi.
And you just, oh man. Is this how people are stealing information?
This is one of many ways.
In airport.
In an airport? Oh yeah, airport, Starbucks. When it's called a man-in-the-middle attack. So if I'm on the same network as you, I can essentially control the traffic, as if I was the modem or router. So instead of when you type google.com, instead of your computer telling the router you want google.com, you're telling my computer you want google.com, and I'm giving you what I'm telling you google.com is. So that would be called a DNS attack. So,
is this what people are using in the airports when they're I mean,
Not this
I've heard
specific
about-
device. This is just something that I concocted together. But the flipper you can buy. This thing on the top here is custom.
I guess what I'm asking is this the method they throw? So what is like Wi-Fi flight or go?
GoGo in flight.
Yes,
Oh,
go.
well, they're actually. I mean, you can hack anything, but GoGo in flight they have a pretty good segment on their network, so you're pretty safe with GoGo. There's a chance of getting hacked, but not the same as like a Starbucks or here. Like, your network has to be segmented into chunks,
Okay.
and GoGo segments it pretty well.
Okay. I guess what I'm saying is, could you create a fake Wi-Fi network with that thing that says "Go in flight 1"?
Yeah,
where
I could-
people are
I could
like,
do that
"Oh, that
now."
must be it."
I could do that here. I mean, I can make any. They're called BSSIDs, SSIDs, the name of a network. You could do that with any name, but instead of that, what you do is you just scan the local area, and then I know all the networks names around here, and then I'll target all of them at the same time, so that way anyone in this complex or where we're at, anyone that connects to a network is going to think it's their network, and they're going to connect to me instead.
Holy shit.
That's just one of many Wi-Fi attacks. So there's many ways. with
Yeah.
Wi-Fi.
What
That's
else
just-
can this thing do? This thing's like the size of the palm of your hand.
Yeah. Well, with this little custom extension, especially when I have my big. These aren't the big antennas, but I got big antennas because I want to get long range. But that's Wi-Fi. This side of things is also Wi-Fi, but also it's an NRF 24, so it does wireless mice and keyboards. So if you use a wireless mouse and keyboard, not every single one of them is vulnerable, but a lot of them are. I'd highly recommend you go back to wired, even though it sounds old school. That's what you should do, because I could control your mouse and keyboard with this device and send keystrokes way faster than you can type them, and take over your computer without even having to see you or it. So I could do that through the wall.
This is scaring the shit out of me.
And then the sub-gigahertz stuff with bigger antennas, of course, I can go further away. So with the car keys, garages, gates, anything that's on radio frequency, I could do with this. RFID, that's access control badges for doors and pool keys, anything that has like a little beeper where you beep into the door.
Yeah.
And NFC is credit cards and access control. And it does also some more things too. You could also I could tap your phone and give you my Instagram, or tap your phone and give you my business card. So NFC is a little more versatile than RFID, but they both essentially are, I believe it's called passive devices. They're powered by the receiver. They don't have a battery in them.
So let's just run through just a list of all the things you can hack with that one little device.
I mean, I don't want to make it into an ad about Flipper because it's not Flipper itself. I'll tell you, but I'm just saying that Flipper itself, if you're going to go online and buy one of these and expect to be able to do everything that I'm talking about, you need to have custom firmware or software, whatever you want to call it, that allows you to do that, and you need to know how to modify it. So don't go out spending $180 on this device thinking you're going to hack somebody's car or steal their credit card, because that's not going to happen. But if you want to go down the list, I mean, there's a ton of things. There's all the radio things I just told you about, the RFID stuff, the NFC, which is the credit cards and more, infrared, which is TVs, projectors, and many other devices, GPIO, which is just anything that connects to the outside of this device, so I can make devices work and this be the controller for it. iButton, which is a form of authentication that uses these things, these little metal prongs as a key. Bad USB, which emulates a keyboard, types a couple thousand words a second.
Wow.
A minute. 1,000 words, a couple thousand words a minute. And then it also has some use cases that aren't hacking, like two-factor authentication. This is a offline device where you can generate your two-factor without needing a device that's connected to the internet. So it does that too. And then there's a ton of other sub-applications that are on here, like hundreds of them that do little things. So a lot. Just with this one device. This thing it does just radio, but it does a lot more than this thing.
Really?
Yeah.
What does that one do?
This one you can hack airplanes with. That's an extreme, but that's something that you can actually accomplish with this using ADSB. You can choose to either receive or transmit. So you can choose to either receive or transmit ADSB with this device, and that's the frequency to tell a plane, its call sign, position, and more. And it's very illegal to do that, of course. But if I wanted to go outside right now, I could even demonstrate later for you. I pull this antenna out. This is just a small antenna. And we can receive airplanes, see where they're at. There's nothing illegal about receiving them. Transmitting is where it gets a little bit funky, But yeah, ADSB, this one does a lot. Like something like a joke, for example, touch tunes at a bar. They're little jukebox machines that you pay for.
Yeah.
This device brute forces them, meaning goes through 000 to 9999 looking for a PIN code. And once it gets it, I can fully control that jukebox like I'm the owner of it. So, just for fun. Or Subaru cars, some years of Subaru, I have this pre-programmed that can unlock and lock a Subaru, no problem. I could do that with this as well. But this thing, way stronger, bigger range, way more support, way more programs out there. This device is a lot more dangerous in my eyes than that device.
Really?
Yep.
Man, you are this is the fifth time I've said it, I think. You are a dangerous man. But
well, I'm safe, I'm ethical.
You could be if you wanted to be.
I'm trying to go into detail about these things just for the nerds out there like me that are listening. I'm not going into exhaustive detail about these devices because most people are not going to care. So I'm just giving the general overview.
Oh, I think they're going to care when they realize how vulnerable they are.
No, I don't mean they don't care about what they can do, but like care about the technical specifics.
Yeah. We get a lot of pretty much everything that we have is from China.
Okay.
All of our electronics, everything, it all, what do you say, 90% of it probably comes from China. Do you think we need to worry about what they're putting in our electronics?
Yeah. I'll give you one example. I bought this awesome vacuum and mop that's in one. It's an all-in-one vacuum mop called Tinico. And it completely connects to a Chinese server to transmit and receive information. Like I made a joke out of it. I actually have a video of it where you could turn the audio on for it. Like when you plug it in, it says charging started, charging stopped. Like when you put it on and off, I can control that with my computer through a Chinese cloud server. There's no reason that vacuum and mop should connect to a Chinese cloud infrastructure whatsoever, but it does. And at any point, they could change the way that functionality works and take over my home network with this vacuum mop. So,
are you serious with a vacuum mop?
Yep. Yeah.
How many devices do you think have these things in them?
Anything with a Wi-Fi connection, it's not everything's going to be China beaconing back and forth, but anything with a Wi-Fi, anything with Wi-Fi capability is going to open up, an attack vector.
Washing machines, refrigerators, just why does a vacuum mop have
I don't know
Wi-Fi capability?
I'd love to tell you, but it's I have the video I could show you. I could find it sometime, but it's I have that, and then I have the app I could show you. I can adjust the volume. I could check when the last time I used it. Does it need to be cleaned? Does it, it tells you all that stuff, but it's using a Chinese server that I can control from my computer now that I've captured the traffic between the mop and the server.
How many devices do you think we have that are connected to a Chinese server? And what would they be getting out of it?
It's all about data nowadays. So, I think that data is the most important thing to them because it's worth money. And advertising dollars would be spent better for, with targeted demographics. So I think that they're using that information to target you on the stuff that you need. If you or someone that you love is looking up something, obviously Google's going to figure out how to target you on that thing and then sell that data to other people, and they call it retargeting. Whereas if they have access to your direct network and they can see, things that you didn't even fully search out, or you're typing on a different application, like a chat application where you're not even searching about it, you're just talking about it, that data is very valuable because they know about something before Google does or some other large data broker.
Interesting. What are 5 simple things that people can do to protect themselves from hackers?
Use a password manager, install an antivirus, or consult with an IT company that has cybersecurity expertise, or a cybersecurity company. One of those many options, but talk to somebody unless you're an expert yourself. Use an RFID blocking wallet, and potentially, if you want to be extra safe, use a key fob that has an RFID shield on it. That way your key fob doesn't work outside of that shield, can't be cloned. Some cars require, tap to start. So, use something like that. Be careful with the websites that you're visiting. If the browser's telling you the site looks unsafe, then it's probably unsafe. And if if you're told otherwise, make sure who's telling you otherwise is legitimate. And, just be careful. I mean, just use your common sense. If something looks too good to be true, it probably is.
Okay, what about we live in a day and age where you're getting spam calls every 5 minutes, you're getting spam texts every 5 minutes, and a new marketing email's coming in every 2 minutes. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to worry about that stuff? If I open a text, could I be hacked just from opening the text?
Technically, yes. I mean, like I said earlier, the zero-click attacks that they're willing to pay a ton of money for, there's government agencies that already have them, There was one going around for quite a long time. Called Pegasus. And then there was another one called Pegasus 2.0. And it didn't require any user interaction from anyone. You would just send to a phone number. They'd have full remote access to your phone.
Even without opening the text?
Without opening anything.
Holy shit. How do you defend against something like that? Yeah.
You can't. There's no way to defend yourself. That's why they're so valuable, because there's nothing you can do.
How do most hackers get in? Do you have to click a link?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a link, sometimes it's a file, sometimes it's a photo, sometimes it's a chain of exploits of multiple things that turn into it. It could be a Word document. It could be anything. When it comes to 0 days and 0-click exploits, it doesn't require any user interaction, and you will not know that your phone's infected.
So I was at the team, and we were doing missions, and we were going after some real big bad dudes. And I have a ton of those stories, but I only tell like 2 of them. But this one story is important because it's who I am. So we're going to this house, we're doing the clearing, we're walking through, and we're doing all the stuff, and we're doing it real quiet because we haven't gone hot yet. So it's all like the cover, shh. We're just going through it super quiet. And I get up through this room, and I get up these stairs, and I take this right, and at the end of this hallway, I didn't know how fast I was going pretty quick. But we're pretty good about that and checking stuff. But for whatever reason, I went through the door, and it didn't have the number 2. So I was going out there alone. And out on this rooftop, so it was a door that opened out on the rooftop. And in Afghanistan, they sleep on the roofs all the time because it's really hot in there and they just want to be out in the cool air. And it's the stars. It's beautiful to sleep out there on these rooftops. Plus, it's the security points. So this guy was up there on security, pulling security for his family and for the compound. And he had the AK, and he's sitting there. And so basically, you see me, I have all the best equipment. The lasers, the nogs, the night vision, all the stuff. And I'm using some terminology but night vision, the lasers, and the gun, and it's totally prepped out, my body armor. And we have our radios on the sides with the antennas and all that stuff. So if you look at me with this green glow in there, and there's all this tech and there's lasers and all this stuff, I'm like an alien being, I'm looking very high tech and very alien looking. And then I look at this guy, and in retrospect, I'm looking at this guy, and he's down here with bare feet and dirty and just raggy hair and his beard, and he had his one, that thing they wear. And I used to know all these things. I used to speak some of the language, but he's kind of washed all that out. But I see this guy up there, and he's laying there sleeping. He's just starting to wake up because there's some noise and stuff is starting to happen, because even the animals start waking up in the compound, you know. So eventually people start waking, and the guy's just getting up, and he sees it, and he's reaching up, and he's got his AK, starts coming up at me. But I'm already off safe, and I'm figuring I'm going. It was a split second. I mean, I set a record at Shaw's shooting, you know, camp, you know, the plate shooting. I'm on that top 10 because I'm a fast shooter. And so I'm sitting there just waiting. I'm just there. And dude's getting up and he's swinging up. And I'm going, don't. And I'm just looking at him going, don't do it. I'm in my head and I'm just praying. It's like all of it's going, all my energy's going to that guy. Drop it. And it's like such a close. And if he was just like this much further with that barrel, and I was just like watching all of it. Why was I doing that? No rules of engagement. I could have taken him right when I walked out on there because he was up there in security and had a gun next to him. Done. But I didn't. I was going towards him. I was still walking towards him, closing the distance. And then the guy just like right there, he goes, and he drops it because he saw it. So it was alien versus caveman. And I'm sitting there for about whatever seconds it took me walking towards this caveman as an alien. Different language, different religion, different culture, different everything. Super high tech and this guy with dirt. Why was I doing that? For seconds, I was walking towards this guy. Didn't shoot. I could have. I was allowed to. Should have. I actually got in trouble because there was guys on other rooftops and there was other stuff going on in the compound. And one guy, and I can't remember who it was. I could if I really thought about it. But he saw what was going on my rooftop. He saw across because it was only maybe as wide as this room. It's not huge distances. So he saw what was going on over there. He saw it. And when we got done with the whole thing and the guy was cuffed, because basically he dropped a gun and I kicked it away and I cuffed him up against the wall. And because I did all the interrogations. So because I was ASOT type guy and I did all that stuff. So I was also the interrogator. So I'm talking to this guy through my terp. And because I was like that agency ASOT guy, I always had a terp because I was always doing this stuff. So he's my terp. And so interpreter. So he was the guy that did all the local Pashto. And I spoke some of it, but not all of it. He, I don't even speak very much at all. It's like team guy, you know, you know, hands up and where's the bomb and this stupid stuff. But I was talking to him and he just seemed like a pretty good dude. This is after all the action, after everything was done and everything's. So I'm just talking to him and I'm getting intel and I'm trying to work with him. And he didn't know anything. And the guy was like, he was not anybody we'd ever want. And I was like, just leave this guy. And then one of the other guys was like, no, we should take him, you know, and get one. You got a guy, and he had a gun, he was security. I was like, no, man, I was going to leave this dude. And so because I had enough voice over it, because I was the interrogator, and I was the guy doing all this stuff, but I was also the guy that ran source operations. So I was the field officer, you know. I was a recruiter, you know. And so I told them we need to leave this guy, and they did. And so we took off, and I, you know, it was good. Done.
You spared his life.
Spared his life. But it was seconds of me walking up on him. 2 weeks later, I'm walking through a bazaar. And if you've ever seen pictures of me, I had this big, bright red beard. Unless I dye it. And over there, I dyed it a lot because I had to get it darker. But if you see me, I had a really red beard. And they used to call me Red Beard or Caveman. So it was always something about that. So 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, it was a little while later, I'm walking through a bazaar. And I got this guy running towards me and he's saying something in Pashto. And so I start drawing my pistol because I had my long gun in the truck. And so I start drawing my pistol out because we're in a bazaar where it's like, it's not a big deal. So, and it was right there on the base. It was one of the bazaars kind of attached to the base. You know what I mean? So it was protected and there was guys all over and we had security towers like right there. So we just brought pistols in there. We just wanted to be, you know. And so I start reaching in and getting my pistol out, and Turp puts my hand down and says, no, he's saying thank you. It's like, and I was like, and me and him have been working for a long time and had super trust. And it's the dude, it's the guy. And he sees me and he's saying thank you and he hugs me. He said, come back to my shop. And so I go back to his shop, start talking to him, and we become friends, you know, and I get a really great discount on a rug, you know, because he had his really cool shop. So it's a good story, huh?
Damn.
That's not the whole story.
It was the guy?
It was the guy. And so what do you think I did with that guy? So it became this amazing thing who I actually gave him over to another agency. But it was amazing.
You
and so we're talking
him.
to the guy. Yeah. So I'm talking to the guy, and it's amazing and good stuff. And because the guy was very aware, because he ran that business, he was always there. He's always traveling around. Saw a lot of stuff. So amazing. And we became friends. And so the point of the story is not all that, the fact that he became a friend or he ended up being good for us. But the conversations I had with him was about, I don't want to be here, and I know that y'all don't want us to be here, so what can we do to get all these foreigners out? And you know, if you've been in Afghanistan, it wasn't really the Afghans that were doing most of the trouble, you know? It was everybody else. It was all these jihadists coming in there and trying to kill Americans. Yeah. Just like when I was in Iraq, I got shot by more Iranians in the beginning than I did Iraqis. They were shooting at us all the time because they were paying money to go on the border right there with the fence and shooting across the Shat al-Arab and trying to get us across the river. The Tigris Euphrates, and they come down, and you have that one strip. Well, the Iranians were shooting across at us, and all the time. And but we weren't allowed to talk about that. But they're jihadists, and they just want to kill Americans. You know, yeah. It's a bonus for them. They get bonuses, I guess, when they go to heaven or something, which is ridiculous. You know, it's an Abrahamic religion. You know, we're also part of the Abrahamic religions. Why can't we all get along or something like that? But the whole point of the story is the fact that I didn't shoot right away, and the guy was I was in trouble. They were like, "Why did you do that? You brought us all in danger." I was like, "No, I was right there. I mean, I was controlled situation. It's not a big deal." And plus, now I met this dude, and he's a really good guy, and we're getting good intel off it. But the point of the story is about here in America. You walk around America, and everybody's fighting. Everybody's talking about phobias. Everybody's calling everybody Nazis. It's all this huge fight. You walk around the street, and you're lucky if you don't get beat up if you're late at night, and you're white or black or Asian or this or that. If you're different, if you're an other, and Courtney brought this up, if you get the term othered put onto you, you're gonna get it. Because that label is that dangerous label. And that's America right now. And so every time I talk, when I give these speeches out in front of these huge groups of people, and I do that, you know, like 5 to 10 big speeches a year, which is pretty good for me because I'm just living off my disability and stuff, you know? So if I can give a speech and I can make a little money off it, it's a pretty good deal. And I give leadership stuff and I do motivation stuff. But this is one of the stuff that I talk about, is the fact that in America, we're all walking around and we never give anybody a chance. I said, I'm walking in there as an alien and a caveman on the ground with nothing. I gave him 3 seconds. I said, we don't do that for each other. Automatically, if you saw me as a transgender person and you would just want to fight me or you want to do something. And I had team guys start trying to pick fights with me and doing a lot of stuff. And it was just like, I didn't do anything. Well, I actually did do something with all that, and I feel bad about that. But we do that for everybody. For black and white, for Asian, for Latino, for all of it. We're all fighting. We never gave each other even 3 seconds to have a conversation or just look at you and say, hey, you're a human being. You know, I'm not going to walk up to you like this and just start punching you in the face. Yeah. How about you give me 3 seconds? And so I ask everybody out there, I say, you'll never, on anywhere around the world, mostly, very rarely will you ever see, you know, somebody as far apart as that alien in that caveman on that rooftop. I gave him 3 seconds. So why can't you do the same? You know, just give everybody you meet 3 seconds. How about you start with a smile instead of a grimace? There's this one rapper that said his whole life changed when all he did was just change his eyebrows. I can't remember who it was. But he was always like that, and always like trying to be that tough guy, just always like, and you do it, you purposely squint like that, and I can look really mean, and I can go up to you, and I can mad dog you. And most of those rappers are all doing that mad dog stuff. He's all he did is lift his eyebrows. And he did that, and everybody changed. Everybody started talking to him differently, and he started treating everybody differently, and his whole life changed. And I ask everybody out there, 3 seconds. You know, I was able to do it in the most critical, like whack, life and death situations.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not a big thing to ask. Is that we all start smiling a little bit, just like that guy did, and changed his life, just lifted his eyebrows a little bit and started being, how about a smile? How about open your hands up out of them fists and talking to each other? Now, how you see transgender people right now is the way I hope a lot of other people start seeing them. There's a lot of folks out there that are hurting. And the thing is every time you or scowl or you talk to a transgender person because they're looking just whack or whatever's going on, and you make fun of them or do anything like that, what you're doing is you're pushing, you're punching them. And then as soon as they get punched, they're going to sit there and they're going to talk to their trans community and the whole community, and they get hugely love bombed. And all it does is just make the gap wider. So every time you're all out there in public, you aren't smiling with those transgender people, just give them a break. You know, they don't need to be beat up. They're beating themselves up enough. You don't need to beat them up. They're getting beat up by everybody else. So if you can do it, if you're a human, and you have just the slightest bit of compassion, how about you start being a little nicer? How about you give that person a break and start trying to close that gap up a little bit? How about if you're black or white, you give it a break and start closing that gap up a little bit? if you're Latino or Asian or whatever, how about you give it all a break? We're not all racist. Most of us aren't. Most of us are poor, and most of us are rich, and that's the division. It's not had nothing about race, and nothing about religion, or nothing about gender, nothing about any of that. The only enemies right now is rich and poor. You know, and always been that way. We're the slaves to them, and it's all we are. And so if we start looking at each other and start saying, hey, we're the same. Hey, dude, you're good. You're a good dude. I've talked to you now for 3 seconds. All right? And we shake hands. And it's black and white, or man and woman, or gay and straight, or trans and not trans, and whatever. When you start closing those gaps up, because we don't shoot, we give them a few seconds, we might start finding out that America's a pretty cool place.
Yeah.
But right now it's a cesspool. Right now it's all fights. And CNN's doing it, and Fox is doing it, and all we're doing is fighting. And we got to stop that. You got to start offering your hand out. When you see that transgender person in that grocery store, just leave them alone. You don't need to make fun of them. They already get enough of that. They get enough of that in a mirror. So please, all I say, if you listen to this whole thing, and you make it here to the end, just, would you chill out a little bit? Would you start being a little friendlier to people? I don't hate anybody. I want everybody to do well, you know? And I want everybody to find happiness. I want everybody to find love. I did. I found love and happiness. And I give everybody at least 3 seconds, all the time, no matter what. No matter how they're coming at me, until they're like right there and I start feeling some danger, I'm still trying to give them some time, you know? And I plead with our country right now. We're at the precipice right now of a civil war. And you know it, and I know it, and a lot of people know it. We're at the precipice right now, but we don't have to fall over. We don't have to go there. We don't have to have another civil war. But we're gonna, if we keep going in this direction. And I beg of you, give everybody 3 seconds. That's all I ask.
You're a good fucking human being, man. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
What they don't realize is that a nuclear warhead can be detonated at any altitude. The first way that we would use a nuclear weapon is as an EMP. So we would see some kind of mass attack that distracts us and blinds us to the incoming attack that launches the EMP and destroys everything.
Do you think that this is a realistic scenario? EMP threat. What's the probability of that happening?
So EMPs are rough, right? What I don't know if it's common knowledge. It might be. I can't say that I really know what people do and don't know about EMPs.
They don't know much. If they think that the Chinese spy balloon was just doing Google Earth's job, then we really got to break it down here.
So an EMP can be the end goal of an explosive device, right? You can create an EMP. You can't create it like in a movie where it's like a little electrical battery that just sends out a pulse. It has to be something of a larger, a most explosive character trait. EMPs are also the natural byproduct in a nuclear detonation. Most people, when they think of a nuclear bomb, they think of a nuclear bomb that comes and is delivered by a rocket, hits the earth, and then explodes, creates a mushroom cloud and a fireball, right? What they don't realize is that a nuclear warhead can be detonated at any altitude. It can be detonated 1 foot off the ground, 1,000 feet off the ground, 10 miles off the ground. It can be detonated at any altitude. And that the first wave of energy that comes off of a nuclear explosion is an electromagnetic pulse. So when we studied nuclear weapons in the Air Force, when we went to War College about how to apply and deploy them in combat, the first way that we would use a nuclear weapon is as an EMP. So you would send it, you'd launch it, the whole world would see it coming, right? But then you would actually detonate at altitude. And you would detonate at altitude so that it would send a very large, widespread, conical EMP that would short the fuses and communication devices of everything within its reach, right? So 2 miles off the ground, you might be able to neutralize 15 square miles of landmass, right? 4 miles off the ground, you could neutralize 50 miles of landmass. So
Are these accurate numbers?
They're rough
Okay.
numbers. There's an exponential benefit to how far you can neutralize based on the altitude above ground, right?
What's the widest area that a EMP, a capability that you know of? How much land mass are we talking?
It
here?
would all depend on the yield of the warhead. So I don't remember how big our largest warheads are. That number might be classified still, for all I know. But if you were to detonate a large warhead at a high altitude, you would have a huge EMP. You also have to keep in mind that the intensity of the EMP is also correlated to how far the devices are from the explosion. So something with shielding might survive the EMP. Something with no shielding might not survive an EMP blast that's done in the atmosphere. You know what I mean? So that's what we have to think about when you talk about EMPs. The main thing we have to consider is that there has to be some kind of blast to neutralize everything, unless you're talking about a focused energy weapon, which could also do the same thing, short something out, right? And we would absolutely expect in a large-scale conflict, a modern-day conflict, you would expect to see cyber warfare to help jam signals, followed by some kind of EMP blast to destroy the software and to destroy the hardware that would carry the software, assuming they could ever fix the cyber attack. And then you'd basically have neutralized command, communications, and relay capabilities. And then you would move in with your attacking force.
I mean, it's all energy,
All directed energy,
no vehicles, no anything.
not needed. Yeah. A vehicle could potentially deliver a weapon. So this is another thing to keep in mind too. You could use a low yield nuclear weapon. No mushroom cloud, no way to even identify that it was a nuclear weapon. You could potentially drive it in a truck and no kidding, just like pop it up from the back bed of the truck. It goes up 500 feet, half a mile, explodes, neutralizes the entire area.
I guess what I meant is if we got hit with an EMP, there would be no vehicles, no electric, no communications, no radio, no nothing.
Not if it's modern. You're exactly right. Because an EMP would short the circuitry. So anything that's got a smart chip, modern day cars, cell phones, all that stuff would be neutralized. Your old school Chevelle should still be good to go, but your Tesla would not go anywhere. It'd be a brick, right? Yeah, if we were to be hit by an EMP, that's essentially how it would work. And again, the more likely way that we would see anything like this happen is we would first see a cyber attack that would neutralize our ability to identify the incoming weapon that would discharge the EMP. So we would see some kind of mass attack that distracts us and blinds us to the incoming attack that launches the EMP and destroys everything.
Do you think that this is a realistic scenario?
Not for us, not for the United States.
Why so?
Because for someone to, first of all, the United States is so large, it would be very difficult to successfully coordinate an attack against the United States that does both of those things, right? And we've got lots of shielding on our most sensitive equipment. So if someone were to try it, I mean, think of the cities you'd have to cover at one time. Miami, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas, Nashville. Like, you'd have to cover tons of cities with a coordinated cyber attack and coordinated EMPs to neutralize the United States, in the hopes that the shielding that's on military bases would be penetrated by the EMP. It's really unlikely, right? Because if you made one mistake, we'd have command and control centralized, and we'd be able to respond with the forces that we have through backup lines. Your telephone lines wouldn't go down, right? Because they're not reliant on conducting chips. They're reliant on fiber optic cables and sometimes just old school Ethernet cables, right? Like, there'd be a lot of infrastructure still in place in the United States. But that's exactly the kind of attack that I would expect to see in an assault on Taiwan. That's exactly the kind of attack that I would expect to see the next time Russia tries to take one of their former satellite states.
I mean, maybe it wouldn't affect the military bases, but it definitely would affect the civilian population.
For sure.
And with no electricity, there's no food, there's no water, there's no heat.
Right. There's no
There's
grid.
no cooling, and so I think that alone. I mean, what are they? It's estimated you have 3 days if something like that were to happen before everything comes unglued and it becomes every man for himself. So really, they wouldn't have to take the military out because the civilian population would just basically eat itself alive.
There's the X factor that we're not considering is what happens when there's an attack. Ukraine is a fantastic real-world example of this right now. President Zelensky's approval rating on February 21st, 2022, was 30%. 30%. President Zelensky's approval rating on February 22nd, 2023, was 90%. Now, why am I saying that? Did the guy suddenly become an amazing president in 1 year? He's the same guy, right? That 90% approval rating came from a mix of gung-ho, hyper-nationalistic Ukrainians who are still in the country, because remember, they've had tens of millions of refugees leave the country. Plus, only a fraction of those gung-ho people can even get to a computer to take a survey. So it's a small sample size of a limited population that all answer 90% approval rating, right? But the thing that demonstrates is that when there's a common aggressor, everything changes. You and I are sitting here talking about the potential negative impact of woke culture. As soon as somebody pulls a gun on any of us, on you, me, or some person who self-identifies as they or them, we've got a common enemy. All of a sudden, we don't care about their pronouns. We care about the enemy. So if somebody were to attack the United States, we wouldn't eat ourselves from within. We'd sit there, we'd probably lock arms, pick up weapons, and fight the enemy. That's what we did after 9/11. I know you remember what 9/11 was like.
I definitely remember that. That was a different time.
It was a different time.
We weren't near as divided as we are today.
We weren't, but some of the most contentious activity we saw was coming from the Gore and Bush elections just prior to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I want to believe you. I really do. But I just don't see. I don't see Americans locking arms. I just don't see it today.
We need a common enemy.
Yeah.
What scares me, to be very honest with you, what scares me is the fact that the administration also knows we need a common enemy.
Yeah.
So
I don't feel like I don't feel like the Trump administration did it. I don't feel like the Biden administration. I don't think unity is on anybody's agenda. You know, and while I do agree that we need a common enemy to unite, I mean, the actions of both administrations are, in my opinion, extremely divisive. No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.